take a look at the players representing these teams. Monsanto, Purple Dokpone, and the Jaw Dude, who in my eyes is a winner either way, because he did get a date.
What, sorry?
He got a date.
Oh, he got a date out of the Global Games. Yeah, I believe he posted on Twitter that he's just moved to Japan yesterday as well.
He did.
Yeah, I'm not sure how stable his Hearthstone playing environment is going to be. We'll see when it comes down to his game.
But yeah, as we take a look at places that are... Oh look, snow, Derek.
Snow.
My favourite.
Oh yeah, yeah. Good meme, very niche. Yeah, it's not often we talk about the views of these countries, but very beautiful place, Portugal. I've been on holiday there a few times, and it holds a very fond spot in my memory.
Ah, that's nice.
Yeah.
Little young Derek running around the castles in Portugal, is that right?
Yep, that's right. All them castles, that's what I went for.
Let's take a look at the picks and bans for this series coming up. It's going to be, first up, Druid and Shaman band. Again, this isn't the first time today that's been the case.
Yeah, Portugal are running the Shadowwalk Shaman, just this straight-up old-school Shadowwalk Shaman, so it does make some amount of sense that it would be banned away by Portugal. They wanted to ban away the Shadowwalk, but not the Rogue, the Quest Rogue, that is being run by Portugal. So I guess that shows that they have a somewhat more... Can these pick and bans be right? Isn't Warrior... Oh no, sorry, yeah, they... whatever.
Portugal's Warrior was picked and also banned.
Yeah, sorry, getting a bit confused there. I think there might be a slight graphical error as Priest was banned twice in the same ban phase there, which is obviously impossible. But the Rogue for Portugal being left up for a little bit but banned later on, I believe, makes sense because they are both anti-control decks, and Canada do have those control-ish styles of decks for the most part.
I do like Canada's style. Hey, Portugal, I know you've already picked your control warrior, but we really don't want to play against it, so we're going to ban it as well. Yeah, we'll get you the correct answers there very soon. So obviously that's not the case. But let's take a look at the first matchup coming up today. It is going to be Canada on the Aggro Mage versus... There we go. Canada on the Aggro Mage with Monsanto versus Portugal, the Viper on Shadowwalk Shaman.
Can that... okay, I'm just going to disregard the pick and ban phase because it showed Shadowwalk Shaman as being the first deck being banned. But for Portugal, they're going with the Shadowwalk Shaman there because I suppose it wasn't banned. It makes sense. You would ban away the other decks first if you're afraid of anti-control.
Derek,
aggro.
Let's just fix everything right now. Let's
that confused me so much.
Another look at the picks and bans for this series. I told you that was the case earlier today. It was probably just a copy from earlier's one. Yeah. There we go. It's actually Portugal's Warrior that's banned and not picked at the same time.
This makes so much more sense. I was justifying that they were both banning away the anti-control decks. No, they're banning away the anti-aggro decks because Canada's got even Shaman, not Shadowwalk Shaman. They've got Token Druid, so you want to get rid of the Warrior because that's good against the Token Druids. They've got Aggro Mage, they've got Zoo. They have got a very aggressive lineup here. So you get rid of the anti-aggro decks. Finally, we're back on track. Canada's strategy making a whole lot of sense.
Okay, we don't need to take a look at the matchups again. I think we've all got it under control here. I was relying on your notes because obviously
my notes were right.
Your notes were right, yeah. So when I said it's Aggro Mage versus Shadowwalk Shaman, and you looked at me very concerned, I was thinking, these are your notes, Derek. Come on, man. But yes, you were right the whole time. The matchups are good. We don't need those again, production team. Don't worry about that. We are ready to get straight into these games. Aggro Mage versus Shadowwalk Shaman, though, Derek. What do we think of this matchup?
It's a matchup we've seen a few times here at the Global Games. It's somewhat of a close one, I think, because on paper, Shadowwalk Shaman has all the tools it needs to deal with Aggro Rogue. You've got board clears in the form of Volcano and Lightning Storm. You've got heal in the form of Hagatha, Life Drinkers, and those healing rains in particular. And you also have ways to dominate the board, to fight back and move towards your own win condition in the form of, again, Life Drinkers and Chain Gangs. However, sometimes that all just goes wrong because the Aggro Mage gets an incredibly dominant board position. Maybe they stick on a Luneth as well, or Luna just goes completely buck wild, draws a whole bunch of cards, and then the Shadowwalk Shaman just sits and cries as they get fireballed and frostbolted in the face.
It's definitely a tough matchup for both sides, I think. I always mention the coin when it's Aggro Mage because that counterspell is significant. Being able to play the coin before a Lightning Bolt, before a Lightning Storm, before a Volcano can actually make the Shaman's life a lot easier against the potential of the disruption that's caused by the Mage.
So to get things going, pretty respectable hand here for the Viper, actually. Lightning Storm is not necessarily at its best against aggro mage in terms of against the aggro decks, because you'd rather be up against maybe an odd paladin, a zoo in particular, when you're playing Lightning Storm, because then you're guaranteed to kill off a lot of stuff. Whereas against the aggro mage, most of their minions sit at 3 health, which is just a gamble as to whether or not your Lightning Storm will even clear anything. Having said that, though, I think it's probably still a keep, just in case they go wide early.
It's one of those vital cards, isn't it? And Glacial Shard's looking great as well. Portugal should be in an okay position this game so far. They're going to want to be looking for Healing Rain a little bit later on as well. And Gluttonous Ooze is another big card against the aggro mage. If they can prevent the Luneth from running away with the game, that's certainly a good start.
Monsanto here, just trying to find his 1-drop in exactly simply Mana Worm to get the ball rolling, or at the very least a 2-drop to be sticking some kind of a board, but they find absolutamente nada in terms of minions at all.
Your vocabulary is getting more and more extravagant as these days go on, Derek. What was that? Absolutely what now?
Absolutamente nada. That's just from Pan's Labyrinth, where for some reason in that movie, one of the few things I remember apart from eyeball monster is a guy, like big monster guy saying absolutamente nada.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Don't know why it popped into my head now, but
well, it sounded good.
Thank you. And they do have absolutamente nada, it's worth saying.
No Mana Worms is key. We joke about this a lot, but it does come up, and even pro players that hit Legend with aggro mage, or have been over the last few days, they've been tweeting out, yeah, hit Legend on day 1, I drew a lot of Mana Worms today.
Yeah, it's, I don't know, it's a fun meme to make, and obviously, as all the best memes are, it has its root in truth. But, you know, there's more to the matchup than that. If you don't draw it, like, aggro mage, if you could draw Mana Worm on turn 1 every game, it would be an easy deck to play, everyone could pilot it to high legend, True. And there would be no nuance to the deck at all. It's when you don't get that perfect hand that the difficult play comes into effect. When you get no minion in the top 8 cards of your deck, that's when you start to get a little bit worried, however.
Unfortunately, Canada still have absolute memento mado.
Spot on, mate. Perfecto.
Excellent. I thought it was.
And now with finally a minion being picked up for Monsanto, he needs to think about whether or not he even goes for it yet, because if he goes Kirintor Mage plus Secret and then doesn't clear off the board, does he even... Is it worth it? It just gets value traded into, and then he's still rocking no minions on board at all.
I like the seeing what the missiles do first and then making the decision strategy there. If it did deal with one of these, then yeah, sure, maybe you do play the Kirintor Mage, but now it's going to have to be that Cinderstorm, and hopefully it clears up this board. It's no sure bet. Okay.
That would have been so miserable for Monsanto if that hadn't been cleared up. I guess one minion being left in play could have gone for a Kirintor Mage plus ping. But this is a lot nicer here for Monsanto. He can now go for the Kirintor Mage, end up, hopefully for his sake, taking a value trade onto one of these chain gangs. It's not perfect. It's pretty far from perfect, but it's all he's got.
It's just not the opening that Canada or any aggro mage player ever would have been looking for. Does it have to be here, do you think, Kirintor Mage Frostbolt? Hopefully Portugal can't deal with the Kirintor Mage. Is the logic there? It's horrible.
Yeah, I think it's the best you got. You play Explosive Runes, I guess, as well, because they already have the coin. Or, sorry, they still have the coin. But you know what? I'm not counting Monsanto out. He's a Canadian, not a Cantadian.
That is true. That is true.
Such a perfect specimen.
Yeah. At this point, he's probably not Adian, but...
He's just not... He just can't really do anything with that hand, is the problem.
Yep, if there's no healing gain for Portugal, at this point, down to 22 health, this is the point where burst damage could actually close out the game. It's Very
we go.
unlikely, I grant you, because he has to get a whole bunch of burn spells, maybe in a Luneth, hope that the ooze isn't there, which we can see it is.
But this is great, isn't it? Like
But-
Cinderstorm and missiles now when there's nothing protecting the face. That's 8, 9 with the hero power, 9 damage that can go directly to the face.
13, double fireball ping, and you've won the game of Hearthstone.
Oh, exactly. And yeah, it's unlikely, but it's the best chance Canada has here.
If they go for double secret on this turn, they know that there is a chain gang in hand, so they will be facing down very likely. Sorry, at least 1 minion on the following turn, so these missiles would be less likely to go face. I guess you're probably right, you just got to launch this all face and hope that you can close out the game then. Or at least some of it. I guess this is a middle-of-the-road play, isn't it, where you get a good amount of damage through to the face, but still can fight back against the minion if it comes down.
The problem is they know there's a Henge Cloud, they know there's a Saonite Chain Gang in Portugal's hands, so that means that if one gets played, yeah, it gets destroyed by the secret, but then the other one sits around and blocks these arcane missiles.
I think that this is probably a slightly more balanced play though, because if they did go launch everything to face, like multiple things have to happen. They have to draw more burn damage, which is unlikely to happen in the next couple turns. There has to be no healing from Viper, which is unlikely. And there also has to just be no counter-lethal from Viper, which would probably come before the healing comes through, before the damage to face comes through. And this also deals 3 damage to the face if the chain gang does come down.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is what the arcane missiles would have done anyway.
Good
So
point.
it's a close one. It's very, very close.
As Canada draws Sorcerer's Apprentice, which again doesn't do all that much.
Fireball, ping face into draw fireball, ping face for the lethal.
That's it, isn't it?
That's it.
That is the win condition now.
Or, that's the win condition, assuming that Viper draws a heal card in any kind of a timely fashion, which is not necessarily going to happen. It only needs to be 1 Healing Rain, 1 Hagatha, probably even just 1 Life Drinker,
yeah.
to pull him out of range for the longest time.
But what else can Canada play to here?
What to do?
They just, they're not, that Sorcerer's Apprentice is never sticking to the board. Counterspell is doing nothing.
They're just hoping to get a couple of these pings to go to face, I think.
Well,
Maybe take out the Manatide Totem as well.
Okay.
Or one of these minions. Do they even want to ping it off, though? Because they do want to set up that Fireball lethal off the top.
It honestly is looking like the second Fireball is the safest way, or the only real way that they can win the game here, as they go for the counterspell and do ping off the Manatide Totem. Interesting.
Yeah, like, if they go for the Fireball out, what's more likely, that they draw exactly Fireball off the top and there's no healing in their opponent's hand, or they slow things down a little bit, try and deny the draw, and hope they get Fireball in the next few turns and cut their opponent's card draw in half in the meanwhile.
There's Hagatha drawn, so
That's
5
very,
healing
very
next
big.
turn. Okay, Cosmic Anomaly. That means that that's an 8 damage Fireball, which does put the Viper down to 6 next turn, but then Hagatha puts the Viper back up to 11, and therein lies Monsanto's problem.
Canada as well, obviously not paying Pyroblast, but I thought I'd check anyway. You never know, maybe someone's trying to sneak it back in.
What to do?
Pyroblast always felt a little bit awkward with a Luneth, but now with Luna as well, it's just very difficult to justify fitting it in the deck.
I believe this is also actually a 30-card mage deck, a 30 mage card deck.
Oh.
Which is not often we see decks in Hearthstone where you get to play entirely class cards.
What do aggro mages usually run that's not a mage-specific card?
Well, they sometimes run Thalnos, Spell Shifter,
Mana Addict, I guess.
Mana Addict sometimes, yeah.
Science overwhelming.
But they come to the conclusion eventually this is their best shot. Maybe there's no healing, and maybe they get burn off the top.
Well, there is the 5 healing from Hagatha. Portugal will be blowing up their own board, but I don't think they care so much.
Yeah, I think you take that. When you've just been set to 6 health versus an aggro mage, there's one thing you want to do above all else, which is gain some life.
Yep. Guaranteeing them out of range of anything Canada have in their deck. I mean, I guess they could get... Oh, wow. Mana Worm on turn 9. Perfect timing on Santo. I guess they could get Glyph into Pyroblast.
They've got Glyph, yeah.
Which be lethal next turn.
Yep. Glyph into Pyroblast isn't out. If they stick this board and it's not removed, which we can see it probably will be, they could go Glyph into a lot of things which would be lethal.
Someday I'll be just
Pretty surprising, I think, that Canada have managed to get it this close to winning this game. Healing Rain, I think we can see, will pretty much lock Canada out of this game. But even then, they had a shot at winning this game.
The Healing Rain was quite deep. It did take Portugal a while to get to it, but just not long enough.
And so for Monsanto, his only shot is playing a Luneth and hoping that the Gluttonous Ooze is not there. Now that he's played both the cards in hand, Luna is an awful lot worse. He could have saved the Sorcerer's Apprentice there to give himself a card to play with Luna right away, which is like the best card to play with Luna actually in Sorcerer's Apprentice. But what does he do? Play for exactly Luna off of the top?
Oh dear, not even any secrets left in the deck. Oh, wait. He runs 2 counterspells.
He does run 2 counterspells, yeah.
I'm so used to just 1 copy of counterspell nowadays.
Same. It's a weird choice. Like you say, we don't see it much nowadays because people prefer a couple of the other power cards in the old deck.
Oh, speaking of power cards, in this specific matchup, the Viper has everything he needs. He can put himself back onto 34 health. He has the Ooze for the Luneth. This is the kind of game of Hearthstone where if Portugal could show Canada their hand and say, look, do you want to concede?
Yeah.
Then they just would.
I agree. There ain't nothing happening here. If Canada can get Glyph into unexpected results, into 2 Millhouses, Millheis, sorry.
Oh, is that the plural of Millhouses?
Of course.
Of course it is.
Read a book, Falco. Thinking of any reason to not go for Healing Rain? Maybe they want to heal up minions on a subsequent turn. There's nothing to talk about left in this game. Canada have their deck just came in the wrong order, to be honest. They gave it a surprisingly good shot. Like they gave themselves outs for a turn, I think, of exactly Fireball, but just wasn't there.
I have to say though, as we look forward into the future matchups, and look, isn't that disgusting? They just roped all the way and then cast Healing Rain. Is there any sort of rules against BM in this tournament?
No, it was a valid concern, kind of, maybe.
Not. Like I said, as we look forward to the future games in this series, next up we're going to have Token Druid versus Control Warlock. Token Druid for Canada, Control Warlock for Portugal, and that is not a good matchup for the Token Druid.
It is not. I would definitely rather be on Portugal's side in that one. They have all the classically good Warlock cards versus Token Druid like Defile, Hellfire, but they also have some of the other Control exclusive cards like Lord Godfrey, which can be very good in that matchup. Maybe even a Twisting Nether, which can get the job done against the final wave, and also the Void Lords and the Void Lords and the Skull and the Manari, which is very good at locking out those early aggro-lethal potentials. But in that game, we've said everything. They just got wrecked.
That's why we started talking about the next game a little bit early. There was just like actually 0% chance of the comeback there. But as we were just saying, next up is going to be...
Token Druid versus Control Warlock?
Next up is going to be... Graphic is not working. All right, let's continue.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were waiting for me to fill in there.
Token is going to be Token Druid versus Control Warlock, which, yeah, is a horrible matchup. But as we go on after that, it's going to be Canada on the Odd Warrior versus Portugal on the Quest Rogue. There we go. There's the graphic.
There we go. And that is, well, dare I say, another miserable matchup for Canada. Wow, this just couldn't really have gone in a worse order for them, could it? The next matchup, I would say, is more likely for them to take a win than Odd Warrior against Quest Rogue, because on ladder, if you're an Odd Warrior and you see someone play a Quest as the Rogue, very often people just concede. They just think this is not worth the 20 minutes of my time.
I think that's silly, personally.
Yeah, well, you're like 70% as Odd Warrior versus Quest Rogue through some mathematical anomaly.
No, I mean, the reason for that is, as...
you're great.
Is that I'm incredible. No, is that people aren't necessarily that good at that matchup. Because, as you said, a lot of the time the Warrior will just concede immediately. It doesn't mean the Quest Rogue doesn't get to practice that matchup. And there are a lot of little pitfalls that the Rogue can fall into.
Yeah. I agree. People suck at Quest Rogue. It's
hard.
It's a very, very difficult deck to play well. There's very few who can talk and play it at the absolute highest level at the moment. But as long as you're following, you know, some basic principles in the Quest Rogue versus Odd Warrior matchup, you should be in a good shot. Like, you know, trying to look for Valera.
Draw Valera.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Don't waste Zola.
Mulliganing for Valera is a good way to go in that matchup, as that's the only real way you're losing. But in the Token Druid versus Control Warlock game that we're looking at now, I feel like the one thing that might be helping out Canada here is that this is, I believe, not the more traditional Token Druid deck list. This is the slightly more recent spin on the deck.
Strong Shell Scavenger.
With Strong Shell Scavenger and 1 Saronite Chain Gang, 2 Giggling Inventors, and they just cut out the Violet Teacher plus Oaken Summons package from the deck, hoping to go for a somewhat more resilient game plan against board clears, which I would have to imagine bolsters their win rate against Control Warlock quite drastically.
This version tends to run Floop as well, which
does.
is incredibly powerful with the my mind just went completely blank with everything.
All the minions
with
in the
Saronite
deck.
Chain Gang is the card I was going for there, because it's the same as the Kellerseth buff. It's 4 mana, 2/3/4s. Arcane Tyrant is played for 0 mana. Giggling Inventor has its advantage as well. Strong Shell is another buff to all of your taunts. It works with everything. And the other thing I think that Canada are going to really want to do in this matchup, though, is basically, this is going to sound really stupid, win the game as quickly as possible. If they can get turn 4 Wisps into coin double Savage Roar, that is a win condition. Give them the chance that the Control Warlock didn't draw a board clear.
First of all, you are correct. That did sound very stupid.
Yeah.
And second of all, I agree. So I guess we're both in the same boat.
However, there is a default there. So
Yep.
it's not going to work.
Really nice way to get the game rolling for Zuka. Stonehill is not a bad card in the early game, but it's not that optimistic of a draw off the mulligan. He's really going to be looking, I would imagine, for Skull of the Minari, because there's no weapon destruction in in Canada's Token Druid. Obviously, Druid very, very rarely runs weapon destruction. So they could be looking for Skull, Hellfire, another Defile, anything like that. But clearly here, Portugal have got the game plan of just curving out, getting minions on board, trying to fight back against any kind of board made through, like you said, the Saronite Chain Gang, maybe even a Giggling Inventor. Oof, that's a spicy hand there from Doc Pone.
That is a Druid hand, isn't it? Wild Growth, Nourish, Malfurion. All they really need is Ultimate Infestation to complete this pretty picture.
I was really hoping it was going to be Ultimate Infestation there. I kind of believed it as well.
When you really, really wish for a Hearthstone card,
It does not come.
it doesn't tend to come.
No. Branching Paths, yeah, you probably don't want to use it this early on. In like Malagos and especially Togwaggle variants, you're much happier to go for draw with that card. But with the Token Druid, you really want to be saving at least one for the buff effect, so that you can go, double Savage Roar plus a Branching Paths as well.
Oh, a second Nourish drawn. That means Doc Pone should be happy to just go ahead, coin out a Nourish to ramp up, and then use the second one to draw cards after that. Or, if Ultimate Infestation is drawn within the next couple turns, then they can just ramp with the second Nourish too, and get straight into it.
Ooh, interesting pick now. Rin, I would imagine, is already run in the deck. I would be wrong in that assumption. There is no Rin run in this deck.
No Rin run.
But you probably aren't destroying any cards versus the Token Druid anyway, would be my assumption, because they just draw through their whole deck so quickly.
They do get through pretty
through
quickly.
the use of Nourish and Ultimate Infestation in particular. So I do like the Void Lord, because if you find the Skull, you are absolutely over the moon that you've picked Void Lord. And even if you don't, come turn 9, it's just a nice play.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, these powerful Token Druid turns oftentimes don't come until turn 8. Well, until the Druid has 8 mana.
Yeah.
We're talking Whispering Woods and Soul of the Forest, but because Canada has so much ramp here, I guess Void Lord on turn 9 might be too late.
But they don't really have anything to do with that ramp at the moment, outside of, obviously, Malfurion, to which I was alluding, where they could go coin, Nourish, and Hero Power or Power of the Wild. I hadn't really thought about that. And Malfurion as well, just on turn 7, which is a nice way to get the ball rolling, get that Hero Power to face every single turn. And it does look like that is probably the way that they are going to be rolling. If they draw an Ultimate Infestation as well, they could go for a Nourish on turn on 7 mana as well.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying a moment ago. Just get straight to that 10 mana play. Let's just get the mana. Sack Pack's not going to do all that much against the Druid yet. Obviously, Portugal do run a copy of Demonic Project, if not 2. And that's the reason that Sack Pack is in there. For anyone foolish enough to get Jiraxxus from Demonic Project and play it. I did see Lorinda do that one time.
Really?
Don't tell him I said that.
I mean, he probably knows.
What, that I said that or that he did it?
Or both, I would wager.
Probably.
And Demonic Project could be fairly powerful in this matchup because there are so few minions, but there are not that many minions you're actually eager to hit. It's not like the Malagos or Togwaggle Druid, where if you hit Malagos or Togwaggle, you're probably just winning that game of Hearthstone. This is a little bit more of an even pattering of a deck. Like, it just kind of goes along. There's no one minion that its entire strategy revolves around. And here it is. You go for the, what was this, turn 4? Malfurion, you're very, very happy to take this, especially because Nourish to draw afterwards is a beautiful way to refill your hand. But with Zuka picking up that Skull of the Minari, they just have to be feeling over the moon with that pickup.
If Dogpone are happy to play that card, then Zuka's certainly happy to play this one after getting that Void Lord. I don't know how Dogpone's going to get through all of these Void Walkers, to be honest. It's already looking difficult. Skull King Geist can also be played next turn to be ripping out the Spellstones from the Druid deck.
And I think here for Zuki, you'd probably be happy to attack in with the 2-1 if necessary, and then chill with the rest, because he does want his taunts protecting him rather than breaking through his opponent's barrier. He does not need to be too aggressive in this matchup. Yeah, not even attacking with a 2-1 because he's not giving his opponent plague value. Well, who knows, maybe it even helps with a Defile.
I guess the only card he's really afraid of is the Strong Shell Scavenger here,
Good point.
given that there's 2/1/5 taunts. They're going to become 3/7s if that thing comes down. However, luckily for Portugal, it's still not present in the hand. So Canada, oh, what have they got to even consider here? Like Whispering Woods, Power of the Wild? Is that the best they've got? Plays into a very strong Defile.
Yeah, I think they want to be a little bit more chill for the moment. They can just draw cards on this turn. They can even ramp up with Wild Growth. If they go for Nourish for draw and then find themselves with an Ultimate Infestation, we could see a Wild Growth on this turn to prepare for that on the next turn. Because you're not too sad about burning cards in this deck. It's not like Malagos or Togwaggle, where if you burn a key combo piece, you lose.
True. You don't love burning Savage Roar? I was just going to say, actually, like, they can play around Defile here by hero powering down the Stonehill Defender, trading one of these 2/6s into the 2/1. Oh, it's so risky because Hellfire still deals with all the wisps. An Owl into a Defile would also do the job.
This one will prove very useful.
Again, it's about taking the risks, though. We said this early on. One of the win conditions for the Druid in this matchup is to play an early Whispering Woods and hope that there is no board clear there so they can just win with a double Savage Roar.
Yeah, I guess given how unfavourable of a matchup this is, you know, they do need to be a little bit risky. They have, however, drawn pretty much the perfect hand up to this point with Wild Growth Nourish into Malfurion. So I don't think they're in that bad of a spot, and because they get so blown out here by a Hellfire, it's not amazing, but even then, the fact that it has to be exactly Hellfire because Defile doesn't clear this board is definitely the breaking point that swung Dogpone back in favour of making this play. As that Void Lord is going to be a pretty sad sight for Canada. The ability to get through this is somewhat limited, especially while they don't have a Soul of the Forest able to come down. So all these minions they sacrifice off are just going to be dying, breaking themselves upon his body, as I believe Osric says.
A tangled web.
Is that what Osric says?
Is that what he says, or is that a meme about him where people say they just... He either says, break yourself upon my body, or as Delay and Firebat were memeing about it on stream while I was falling asleep.
Sounds more like he'd say brace yourself than break yourself.
Brace yourself upon my body. That doesn't make sense.
I mean, I don't know what the body part is about either.
Well, it's because he's like a big wall, and to get through, you just have to smash yourself upon him.
Okay. Honestly, I don't think I've ever heard Osric played.
Well, that's the difficult bit, is no one's ever played Osric in the history of Hearthstone.
More people have probably played Whizbang from the hand than have played Osric.
I'm going to go ahead and say that's probably not true.
I mean, if you generate a random Whizbang and a random Ozrock, one of them's a 4-mana 4/5, the other one's a 9-mana 5/5.
Yep. I don't think it... How do you even generate a Whizbang? What does that to the hand?
Anything that gives you a random legendary.
Nice. Even so, as we've been joking around a little bit on Canada's turn, it's been a little bit of a slow one, but they do, in the end, come to the conclusion that they have to just break through this Void Lord with their Spellstone and prey upon all hope that there is no second Void Lord to repopulate the field, or even if there is, that they can go for a big Spreading Plague on the following turn.
Yeah, but step one of that Spreading Plague should be destroying the Void Lord to get some more Scarabs, but it's not going to happen. As Zuka now going to play the Skulking Geist, destroying the other remaining Spellstone, and with it, many of Doc Pone's hopes and dreams.
This is a big old plague, though, which is about as good
It
as
is.
Canada can expect to get. Like, I was not thinking they get anywhere near as good as a plague as this in this matchup.
If there was a strong shell in the hand now, in fact, maybe that's the play from Canada. It's just now draw, try and get that strong shell scavenger, and then create this huge Spreading Plague.
Yeah, that's very much worth considering. If they don't do it kind of soon, though, they're just going to die to this pressure on board. Like, this is 10 damage a turn coming through from Zuka, which I guess they can weather for a fair while. But, like you said, looks like they're holding on for that bad boy right there in the Strong Shell Scavenger.
It's actually a tough call for Doc Pone next turn, as he'll have to choose between I can't say the name of the card now, Spreading Plague, Soul of the Forest, or Spreading Plague, Strong Shell.
Turning into Sean Connery a little bit now. Spreading Plague.
That's not the worst person to turn into.
Oh, please, if I could turn into Sean Connery, I'd do it in a heartbeat. Maybe in his younger days.
One of the most disgusting things that Token Druid can do that we've been talking about a lot in the past is the Spreading Plague into Soul of the Forest play, because all of the 2/2 Treants get protected behind the 1/5 Scarabs. The problem is that the 2/2 Treants don't have Taunt.
They do not have Taunt.
So Strong Shell Scavenger doesn't buff them, which sort of does add an extra nuance to this matchup. It genuinely makes that decision difficult. Do you play Plague Strong Shell, or do you play Plague Soul of the Forest?
Well, maybe they just go for an ultimate infestation to draw more cards so that they can go Plague Soul of the Forest and then hope to go for double Savage Draw and
Branching Path.
Branching Path as well, just to push through for burst damage.
Yeah.
It's very unlikely to happen, but they're going to have to take risks, as they've clearly shown. They've been making risks consistently in this game by going for an early Whispering Woods because they had nothing else at their disposal. One card would be overdrawn with an Ultimate Infestation, and they would have to draw exactly the Arcane Tyrant in order to not overdraw another one, because there's no Innovates or Moonfires.
As you said earlier, though, that's not the end of the world for Token Druid, burning a card or two. The real question is, where is that Ultimate Infestation going? Does it go to the face, or does it go into the Void Lord?
I mean, does he even play it? Is the first question to be made, I think, before you think about where it goes. Because Plague Strong Shell, like you said, it's not a bad turn.
It's not as good now that that Void Walker was hit by Sack Patch, though.
That's true.
I like the idea of destroying this Void Lord first, then playing the Spreading Plague combo.
That makes sense. And hope to kill it off. Yeah, because I guess here they have to either go for an AoE clear, which then, brilliant, they've used an AoE clear in order to kill off all their Void Lords, all their Void Walkers, sorry. But this is a somewhat suspicious play that Doc Pone is making. He's just drawn a bunch of cards, and this is the best play he makes. Alarm bells will definitely be a ring-a-ding-ding-in for Zuka.
What do you think he's holding on to the excess mana for?
I was thinking about that. It's stuff like he wants to go Tyrant into excess mana on that turn, so he has an extra chance of drawing Tyrant, so you can dump it immediately. Whereas if you go for excess mana on a turn prior,
if you draw the Tyrant,
you can't play it.
Wow, that's so fringe.
I mean, that is pretty fringe. The other idea is, you know, you didn't want to draw anything immediately. Maybe you don't want to draw for the rest of the game, I think is probably the other plan, where he was just playing the Wild Growth because maybe he has to draw, so you may as well bank the mana.
Okay.
And then if it comes to the point where you want to go for the fatigue plan, which is still a valid plan for Dokpone. They haven't drawn that many cards. They maybe just never play the excess mana for the rest of the game.
Not sure how they out-fatigue Gul'dan, though. That could be difficult.
It's unlikely, which is why they've given themselves the option. It's not like they just aren't playing Wild Growth. They're not playing the excess mana.
Now suddenly, this Spreading Plague into Strong Shell Scavenger is looking incredible with all of these... Oh, hang on. Now it's not, because Portugal have filled up the board, which means the Scarabs fill up the board, which means Strong Shell Scavenger cannot be played with the Spreading Plague.
That's pretty clever, actually, from Zuka, just to go 1 minion further, because the difference between 6 and 7 Scarabs is not that bad, unless he wants to destroy his whole board here to play around Plague completely, because Dokpone here could go Plague into Soul of the Forest, which is
Just doesn't matter.
kind of scary for Zuka, but he could then just go Lord Godfrey and clear off everything.
Oh, I think even Defile can probably get there somehow.
Well, whatever. Just he has a way to clear the board. But you are probably right.
Yeah, I've just counted up. It's definitely possible. All they need to do is trade a single Voidwalker into a single Scarab, and Defile does it alone.
Wow.
Defile is pretty powerful when it works that way.
I'll agree with you there.
As Zuka's playing musical minions here on the board? Oh, I guess... Okay.
Just wants to keep tapping, I think, really. Wants to find Gul'dan as soon as possible. Like, he clearly really wants to find Gul'dan as soon as possible by going for Spellstone Tap Ooze there, which is a pretty funky play. But if you want to find Gul'dan, this is a pretty smart way to go about it, I guess. But now, Canada, the play they've been moving towards for so long now, finally comes into effect. They Plague, they Soul, they hope there's no board clear, and then they cry.
As I said a moment ago, all Zuka needs to do is hit one of those 1/3 Voidwalkers into a 1/5 Scarab. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 represented. One of the Scarab dies, 1 proc early, which means that one of the 2/2s dies, and then the rest of the 2/2s die straight after.
Well, I think you're right.
I'm sure there are other ways of doing it as well.
Sure there are many ways of going.
The fact that there's one, though, that's the most important thing.
So there's a 1 health minion on the board, there's a 2, there's a 3, there's a 4, there's a 5.
And vitally one of the
And then there would be a 6.
Oh, well, there's
yeah.
Yeah.
Just double, triple, quadruple, quintuple checking their maths here to make sure they don't mess up, because ruining your Defile maths is a pretty embarrassing way to mess up live on stream, as Dokpone sends down a bit of BM, I would say that, as if to say, have you really not figured out if this is a board clear yet?
Just going to go with Godfrey instead, though. I guess it doesn't matter too much.
Both is a board clear every time, so they may as well go for Godfrey because they have the mana spare.
Okay.
Is their major reasoning, I would imagine. And there is yet another Void Lord waiting to come down.
1 a turn for free, thanks to the weapon. Second, well, they can play both next turn if they want to, actually.
I feel like Skull is that forbidden power that we've forgotten about, but now Zuka has dug too deep in the minds of Moria and found something that was better left unfound.
I don't know. This must be one of the worst matchups in the whole of Hearthstone at the moment.
The fact that they've got this taunt version with Strong Shell Scavengers and Saronite Chain Gangs, I think boosts it a little bit because they can make more resilient high health boards. But I do just agree with you.
Yeah.
It might be a better matchup than up against Control Warrior with Warpath Shield, with Warpath's Blood Razors.
Not Odd Warrior.
Not Odd
very
Warrior.
specifically.
Yeah,
Odd
Warrior
Warrior
is a good matchup.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a good matchup, but it's not absurd. Whereas if you're running Scourge Lord Garrosh, you can just concede right there.
And like you said, Warpath, it just takes 2 Warpaths to shut down the combo. I mean, Gaskin and me have both been playing the Fibonacci Mechathune Warrior that we saw briefly yesterday, and we found Token Druid to be an incredible matchup.
Oh, yes.
For that very reason, just Warpath shuts down any play that includes Soul of the Forest.
So now Canada will be met with the pretty sad news. There is another Void Lord. It's really only the Gul'dan that is the final piece of the puzzle for Portugal. And it can only be so far away. Even if it was the bottom card here, they would then go for it. They would probably repopulate the board completely and then push for lethal next turn. It just has to be another absurdly powerful Plague for Dokpone to have a chance, I think. There it is, another Defile. If a half-decent card can be destroyed off of Gnome Ferratu, which, you know, Savage Roar kind of is. That's a big amount of burst that's just eliminated from the deck at this point.
It's just putting Canada in a worse and worse position. 7 more health, as if Portugal even needed it. They have a Nether, they have a Hellfire, they have 2 Defiles.
So I guess this is, if they do want to go for a fatigue plan, which it currently looks like is what they're going for, they could just stop playing Ultimate Infestations ever. If they were going to play a UI, I guess they would have done it last turn instead. But they do need to start evaluating if that is a viable game plan. I guess if they go swipe this turn, they could swipe, take out the Void Lord, and hero power down a Void Walker. Unless they want to set up for a better Spreading Plague.
My thoughts are plagued.
Mine too, Malfurion. Yeah, I think if they're not going for the Ultimate Infestation here, it's pretty obvious they're setting up for a fatigue plan. As well as Swipe is not a bad card on this turn, is it? They're just clearing off a bunch of minions on board.
Yeah, but clearing off the board is one thing, actually winning the game is the other thing. And as you said, I guess the fatigue plan is...
It's not absurd.
At least worthy of thinking about.
Because Zuka has been tapping so aggressively this game, and there is still no Gul'dan. So unless Portugal stop tapping right now, which they should realize, Canada is going for the fatigue game plan, but they say, so what?
I mean, yes, so what is the answer? Canada have a load of nothing in their hand. If they're going to go for the fatigue plan, what do they do next turn? Arcane Tyrant, Soul of the Forest. Awesome. That is a great play.
Something tells me you don't think it's a great play.
Just a little bit sarcastic there, yeah. Spreading Plague on the
Here we go. Plague, you trade off both your minions. There's no way you can kill off the Void Lord yet, I don't think. So maybe we see an Ultimate Infestation now because they want to go for one final hurrah rather than going for a fatigue plan. Because they could then go UI and try to take out a Void Lord on the following turn, then go for Spreading Plague. But even then, the 5 from the UI and the 3 damage on board is only 8, doesn't actually kill off a Void Lord. So I'd have to imagine Plague Soul is the play. Finally drawing here, trying to look for some other way to push a little bit of extra damage.
They've decided fatigue plan doesn't really work when we can't play any cards whatsoever when our opponent has a full board.
I mean, they found the card they were probably looking for if they're still going for a fatigue plan, because they can go Plague, Double Tyrant, Soul of the Forest, hope that it sticks on the board.
And here we see the advantage of playing that Wild Growth earlier, of holding on to the excess mana. When they made the decision to draw, they were able to do it and not waste any of their precious mana, so they can make this full 10 mana turn here.
I do like as well from Canada thinking a little bit more outside the box and going for the fatigue game plan, because very often in matchups where you presume that you are losing anyway, creative thinking is what leads you through to a victory. I believe the matchup I'm thinking of is Even Warlock versus Control Mage, where traditionally people have thought of Evenlock as being a massive underdog in that matchup, because there's just too much removal, and Gul'dan isn't quite good enough in that matchup to lead to a victory. But I think I heard Muzzy talking about that matchup where he says, you just keep Gul'dan off the mulligan, you never tap, and you fatigue them, because you go for hero power with Gul'dan every single turn. And then when it gets to fatigue, because you haven't drawn any cards, you still have all your threats, and they just don't have enough stuff to handle your hero power.
What an interesting take on the matchup.
Yeah, and I mean, it seems to be working for him, and Doc Pone clearly here employing a similar strategy where they take a matchup they shouldn't really be winning and go for, you know, trying to punish their opponent's style of play, which was to go for, wow.
Look at that Defile.
Was to try and tap as hard as they possibly could for Gul'dan and punish that play. If they tap so hard for Gul'dan, say, right, we are going to fatigue you. As unlikely as that is.
A fatigue plan isn't ideal when both of the cards in your hand are Ultimate Infestation, and then you draw a Savage Roll with them.
Agreed.
It's not quite worked out for Doc Pone. I like that he found an out to win the game. I like that he went with it, but ultimately it wasn't going to happen. Zuka takes game number 2 of the series, Portugal leading with a 2-0 lead.
Yeah, I mean, it's somewhat surprising, but then again, you think they paid 5 mana for a skull, which I believe gave them 36 mana worth of stuff over the course of the game. So, What do you know? It's a pretty good card, and when you draw it, you're generally winning those games.
Portugal are 2-0 against Canada. Will they get the sweep? Will Canada be able to bring this one back? We'll find out after this short break. It's Portugal versus Canada, and it's going to be Quest Rogue versus Odd Warrior coming up next. One of the worst matchups for the Rogue. Just kidding, for the Warrior.
Almost got me.
Almost got you, Derek.
Yeah, this is not only one of the worst matchups for Odd Warrior, this is one of the most lopsided matchups in Hearthstone. To be honest, this is one of the most lopsided matchups in Hearthstone ever, I would say. Like, Quest Rogue up against X are always some of the most lopsided matchups because it is a deck of extremes. It was more so in the olden days before Scalehide was in the deck, because then it pretty much always lost to aggro and pretty much always beat control. I believe Fibonacci was saying when he was running a Dead Man's Hand Warrior a few months ago, I believe it was before the rotations, there was still Sleep with the Fishes and stuff like that in there, that he had just never won against a Quest Rogue because there are certain decks that just do not beat it. Odd Warrior is not necessarily one of those, because if the Quest Rogue is not playing at its absolute A game, there are ways it can lower its percentages to win the game, but it's just, basically, this is not looking good for Canada, is the point we're trying to make. This is a miserable matchup.
There are the key cards for Quest Rogue, like Zola the Gorgon, for example, that just cannot be wasted, because once Valera comes down, that infinite value with Zola is what wins the Quest Rogue the game. If Valera is the bottom card, and only the bottom card, then maybe the Warrior can have a chance. But the thing is, players of this caliber will not be making that type of mistake.
And that's what people have been saying on Twitter, is, you know, people throw out their tweet where they say, I beat a Quest Rogue as Odd Warrior, because it's a bit of a feat to be able to do it.
Who would do that?
Imagine thinking that. But people have been posting it, but basically what people have come to the conclusion of is if you are playing a really good Quest Rogue player, you don't win. You just never win this matchup. So if we could see here Portugal playing it well, I would say they shouldn't be able to lose this game, because I think the general idea in this matchup is you don't need to be quick with your quest, you don't need to complete it as quick as possible, you just need to be making the highest value plays possible, which means finding Valera as quickly as possible, and generally trying to not draw too many cards.
Although fatigue is something to think about, that doesn't mean the Rogue shouldn't be drawing cards, because it's a weird way of looking at it, but it's all about Valera. Like,
hold up, sorry, Falcon. Breaking news. Beep, 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 beep.
beep, beep, beep.
Frothing Berserkers are in Canada's deck list.
What?
This is not your average Odd Warrior. I didn't even take a close look at this, because every Odd Warrior is basically the same that we've seen in the global games. There's a lot that could go wrong here, actually.
Hang on a second.
Oh, okay, I say a lot that could go wrong for the Quest Rogue. There's some stuff that could go wrong for the Quest Rogue, but they've got 2 Rabid Worgans, they got Darius Crowley, 2 Direhorns, 2 Frothing Berserkers, dare I say. This is just Aggro Warrior.
Aggro Odd Warrior. Ladies and gentlemen, you've seen it here for the first time in the Hearthstone Global Games.
Okay, this is still probably like a 15-10% matchup for Canada. I'm not saying it's good at all, but it does mean that Portugal have to get a little bit of a move on, a little bit of bustle in their hustle.
And let's take a look at Portugal's hand for a second. We're seeing Sonya, we're seeing Shadow Step. They've got the Elven Minstrels, they can draw through the deck, get those cards to be charging and bouncing, and they even have a Scalehide, so all they're really missing is Valera.
We do see Purple having a good bit of a chuckle there, as I'm sure he's having a good time. These are the kind of matchups that Purple does surprisingly well, and he relishes in these unfavorables because he's so blooming good at Hearthstone that if anyone can find a victory, it's probably our boy Ryan Murphy Root.
Too soon.
Just wondering here for Portugal if he does want to complete the quest, I suppose, with the Novice Engineer. This is not the card that you usually try and complete the quest with, but here we go. This is the Frothing on curve for Purple. Oh my god, this is closer to Pirate Warrior than Odd Warrior.
Little nod there from Dr. Boom, but now Purple is loving it. And actually, Dr. Boom can't deal with it.
What does he do?
He just can't.
Is this game over already when a Quest Rogue has Sonya and Deckhand? I am joking, by the way.
No. It's just going to have to be Sonya's Shadow Step. At least that way, that Frothing Berserker isn't growing at all this turn.
Yep.
Next turn, Portugal can just deal with it with the Scalehide or with the South Sea Deckhand.
Yeah, you go Sonya, Dagger, Deckhand, Coin, Deckhand. Sonya, Dagger. Oh no, wait, they can't deal with it, can they? Whew, this is a pretty smoky start for Purple. I was going to say that this matchup was nigh on unwinnable, but here, Purple putting up a pretty big display at the start.
They can deal with it with the Scale Hide. They can go Sonya, Scale Hide, Coin, Scale Hide.
Oh, what, and attacking with the dagger?
No, just... Hang on, the Frothing has 4 health.
The Frothing has 4 health. What
Okay,
are you talking
don't
about,
worry.
mate? They could go dagger, Sonya, deckhand, coin, deckhand with the dagger, kills it off. They take 4 in the process.
That's fine.
And their Sonya does die off, so they don't want to go for that. They could, we could see on this turn coin Giggling Inventor to pray that the actual Giggling Inventor itself survives. And then go for a Sonya on the following turn.
But then the Frothing goes out of control.
Yeah. If it goes wrong, it goes really, really wrong. I'm just throwing ideas out there.
I don't think they can afford to go with a Giggling Inventor. I think it has to be the deckhand play that you described. Wait, no, they can't even deal with it with deckhand. They're only dealing, because the attack goes back to 1 when Sonya bounces it. It's only dealing 3 damage. 1 from the dagger, 2 from the 2 deckhands that get played.
So many options.
That's 3 from the deckhands that are being played, and the dagger, that's 4. You've got the dagger, which is 1.
Yeah.
The 2 deckhands, which is 3.
Okay.
1 and 3 is 4.
Okay.
We're really having a bit of trouble here today between 3 and 4, aren't we, Falcon?
Look, Derek. I've cast 4 series today, okay, mate?
Fair enough. You get a bit of slack. You have been picking up the slack here for certain casters who shall remain nameless.
And voiceless.
And voiceless. But here, Purple with his odd warrior, his odd Smork warrior, has got the quest rogue down to 12 health on turn 5 and shows no sign of slowing right now. There is no way to deal with this Frothing Berserker for Portugal, which they could have dealt with last turn. They would have had to sacrifice their Sonya, so I didn't like it at the time. But now they have to go Giggling Inventor, which would mean that the Iron Beak Owl can close out the game. Right?
Yes.
I think.
Because the Rabid... The
Rabid Worgen just goes nuts then.
The Rabid Worgen and the Giggling Inventor trade into the other Annoyatron. And then, yeah. So Portugal, realizing that's not an option, they're going to go with Elven Minstrel. I guess they're hoping for a Glacial Shard.
They're hoping for a Shard.
They don't get it.
Oh my god. Is this the future of Odd Warrior? You just stick in Frothing Berserker and smork your opponents down on turn 5. This is an Odd Warrior, folks, and they have got turn 6 lethal.
Too soon.
There's nothing! Oh my god! Purple is a god. I bow down to you, Purple, you beautiful man.
Oh my goodness. Right, well, I know what I'm going to be playing when I go back to the hotel room tonight. As Odd Warrior beats... I told you it was unwinnable for the Rogue.
Yeah. Your list doesn't even have any good cards for the matchup. They have the Rush package and Frothing Berserker. That was a game of Hearthstone. That's what we're here for, punishing some quest rogues with your Odd Warrior.
All right, well, I'm going to scribble out the tick that I'd preemptively put by Quest Rogue. I'm going to tick Odd Warrior, and we're actually going to have to start thinking about game number 4.
We are. I want to take a quick moment, though, because even though we've been having a little bit of a joke here, because this was a pretty nutty series of Hearthstone, Purple and Canada decided to build this version of Odd Warrior, which I have never seen before. No. I've never seen anyone put Frothing Berserker. I've never even heard anyone talking about putting Frothing Berserker in Odd Warrior. And clearly, it gives them a win condition against Quest Rogue.
When you think about it, Frothing Berserker's always been a pretty powerful card in Hearthstone, hasn't it?
It has. It hasn't had the support for a long while since the Pirate Warrior or Patron Warrior days way back when. But in Odd Warrior, maybe it's found its new home as a hard counter to Quest Rogue.
Next up, though, things are going to get a little bit weird as we have Canada on the Odd Paladin versus Portugal on the Control Egg Paladin?
Yeah, taking a look at the list here for Portugal, this is a very cool deck that we're seeing here. It runs the kind of core of all Control Paladin decks throughout history, with Equality, Pyromancer, and Consecration in there as well. It's also got Spike Steed, Tarim, Valinir, all the kind of value and just good Paladin cards. But then the real new core of the deck is the egg, the Meccano egg thrown in there, I believe, to synergize with some of the magnetic strategies, War Gear, Ziliax, as well as obviously Spike-Ridge Steed, and then you pull it all back from the dead with Kangor's Endless Army and hope to just outvalue your opponent.
So it's kind of similar to the old Muzzy list.
It's similar.
Same sort of game plan, which is just play a couple of the mechs and just layer as much on top of them as you possibly can.
Yeah, I think Muzzy's list was a little bit more tempo-oriented than Control, but he fully admitted when he brought it to Copa America, which is what we were both talking about, that he liked the deck, he thought it had some potential, but he didn't think it was finished. It was far from refined at that point, because he hadn't had much time. Boomsday had only just come out at that point, so he gave it his best shot to build the deck and had a decent amount of success with it. But here, up against the odd Paladin for Monsanto, you know, this is not a matchup that either of us will know because Control Paladin is not a deck that anyone really plays in this meta, for the vast majority of people anyway. But I'd have to imagine it's probably not that bad. It's a deck with Wild Pyromancers, it's got Consecration, it's got a bunch of Taunts in the late game. If they can get over that first little hump, try and survive a level up perhaps from Canada, I think Portugal could still be able to take this game.
They have so many of these defensive cards. I mean, Bronze Gatekeeper is pretty good against 1/1s from Odd Paladin. They've got the Equality Consecration that we can see in the hand. What's it called? Mr. Howdy 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 Man? The Noya Module.
Noya Module. Yeah.
Very good against Odd Paladin.
Mr. Howdy 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 Man.
Howdy!
Glad they don't let you name cards.
None will.
You guys are so unsupportive of my dreams to work for Team 5. I had an incident with Lorinda earlier, okay, Derek? You're just as bad as he is.
Dare you? You heard me, good sir.
Well, Canada do have the good old Odd Paladin start. They got Fireflies, they got Lost in the Jungle, they got Hero Power. I mean, obviously they have the Hero Power, and they have Raid Leader into level up later on. It's about as good as they could get.
Yeah, it's really not bad. I suppose up against a hand like, up against a deck like this, they'd be hoping for Corridor Creeper because it's more survivable, or a Divine Shield Maul to protect their minions on turn 4 going into turn, on turn 3 going into coin level up. Because basically they are going to be very afraid of either Consecration or Wild Pyromancer from Portugal to clean up this board before level up comes down, which I would imagine Portugal will be doing. Yeah. Turn 4, before the coin level up is available, a swift Consecration to deal with every minion sounds pretty good to me.
Yep, they're going to have Bronze Gatekeeper before that if they want to play it. They're not going to have much choice with no other options, but they'd prefer to start by sticking down a Meat Wagon and then maybe play an Egg and layer the Magnetic minions on top of that. But hey, if you can't choose, you just play the cards that you've got.
Yep, against an Odd Paladin, which is a deck, checking through the deck list, which I believe has no Silence available. It hasn't run Owl for quite a long time at this point. If you stick Bronze Gatekeeper on an Egg, if they don't Void Ripper it, which there's no Void Rippers either in this deck, you're probably just winning, to be perfectly honest. It's way too much health to be breaking through. Kangor's Endless Army then becomes absurd. It's looking pretty good for Portugal.
Bronze Gatekeeper into a Noya Module is looking like a pretty great curve. Obviously, they're going to want to consider that Consecration, though. Ooh, Meat Wagon drawn as well. Lots of difficult decisions for turn 4.
Yeah, I imagine it's still probably going to be a Consecration coming down on turn 4. But I like the tempo play here of Bronze Gatekeeper, because while I was saying that I think it's very powerful with the Egg later on, they still have a Noya Module for their Egg. They have just Egg on its own, which is still very good if they can go for a Pyro Equality or anything else, really. Spike-Ridge Steed, a Noya Module, a whole bunch of good stuff.
Well, again, if this Bronze Gatekeeper survives, there's even the potential of a Noya Module just being stuck on top of that and turning this into the humongous mech minion. Obviously, Meat Wagon, though, is guaranteed to tutor out the Egg, put it straight on the board, and then the Magnetic minions do go out of control.
Well, it's guaranteed to pull out the Egg as long as you don't magnetize something to it, because Meat Wagon is a mech, an oft-forgotten fact, which is, in a way, one of the downsides of this deck, because you would rather Meat Wagon isn't a mech, so it can't be resummoned with Kangor's Endless Army.
And yeah, I mean, as I found when I tried Muzzy's list back then when it was relevant, I just said back about 8 times.
You did.
Playing a Magnetic minion on top of Meat Wagon does tend to be a mistake because you do want that Egg. There's not really a minion you'd prefer to pull with it.
Yeah, I agree with you. So an interesting play here from Monsanto in the most obvious play I was looking at, to be honest, was Lost in the Jungle Hero Power. It sets up for the best coin level up available to you, and it just puts out a good amount of stats on the board. Going for the Flame Elemental, though, I think is a play they're making for two major reasons. The first of which is to try and make their opponent think they don't have the level up, which probably doesn't work because Portugal don't know that they have the Lost in the Jungle. They don't know that they had the choice of going for this. But more importantly, the main reason they're going for this decision is they have more cards to play next turn, more dudes to play next turn, sorry. So go Lost in the Jungle, Hero Power, then level up afterwards. So they just have more refill with this play, a stronger level up, even if they are met with the board clear.
This is still a hard turn for Lazy.
It's not easy.
Like, I don't think the Consecration's as obvious as maybe it looks.
So if you go Meat Wagon here, and then attack into one of the recruits, he gets a triple buff, which isn't that good. You then have Consecration, which could clear up because you have a bunch of one-attack minions on the board.
But if he hits into one of these and then plays a Noyo module, the taunt on the board does end up with 3 attack, which would trade into those buffed minions.
I think I like this a little bit more from Portugal because, like I said, with no Silence, no Void Ripper in the deck, any taunt magnetizing effect on an egg, or on a Mechano egg, sorry, is insane. It's so much time that Monsanto has to spend getting through it.
Though the issue with this is that Lazy A is not going to have a way of suiciding this Meat Wagon after the level up gets played.
Yeah, I think that's fine for the moment. You're not too upset about that. I agree. It's not perfect because you want to be able to go annoy a module next turn.
Then again, I mean, Portugal can still Consecration away 2 of these minions that will end up being 3/2s once one's dealt with the Bronze Gatekeeper and the other has been hit by the Meat Wagon. So it's actually really not that bad for Portugal. In fact, you could make the argument that it's not the best level up turn for Canada.
It's not amazing. I was anticipating it'd be a little bit better if the Consecration didn't come down. But this is the benefit of Lazy A's play in going for the Bronze Gatekeeper, because if he hadn't gone for that and had saved it for the egg off of the Meat Wagon, then he would have had the ability to taunt up that egg, but it would have forced him, I believe, to go Consecration on this turn 4, whereas with the way it currently works out, he did not have to go for the Consecration, and ended up in a decent spot because of it.
Still no way of suiciding this Meat Wagon just yet, which, as you said, isn't the end of the world. I guess Portugal could just go ahead and drop a True Silver Champion or something, set that weapon up. He's under no immediate threat right now.
We could see Equality trade into the Raid Leader and then Bronze Gatekeeper on the egg that comes out.
That's really nice.
Kind of spicy.
That's a really nice turn.
Yeah, it's not perfect because you want to go Equality Consecration on the same turn, but there's not that many high health minions in the deck, are there?
And that's the thing, like with all of Monsanto's minions set to 1 health, the egg with the Bronze Gatekeeper will single-handedly deal with all of the remaining minions anyway. I really like that.
Yeah, I like it too. Again, looking at the deck list, there's just no real counterplay to that. No Void Ripper, no Silence, just very little that can be done.
So many complicated decisions already in these early turns for Lazy A. He does end up going with the True Silver Champion. And, you know, this is fine. Like I said, it's a turn to set that up. He can deal with a Silver Hand Recruit, meaning level up is looking useless this turn.
It's a little bit of a slower turn, but I suppose the main thing to consider here is that whenever your Meat Wagon dies off, putting Bronze Keeper on the egg is just good. As long as you aren't forced to go for Consecration on the same turn next turn because you don't have enough mana to go Gatekeeper Consecration on turn 6, it's a fine play to just break open the Meat Wagon whenever, then magnetize the taunt onto the egg. But I think I still probably slightly preferred my play. But if you are met with a double level up along the way, or Fungalmancer into Fungalmancer, or Fungalmancer into level up, whatever, any play that ends up with a lot of health on the board, that Equality becomes very valuable. Maybe too valuable to give up this early on.
That's true.
It was a tough turn. It was a real tough turn from Portugal.
All of these turns are looking tough as Canada take their sweet time with this one. They have Sacred Maul. It's not the one they want, really.
Arguably, it's the worst one.
Yeah, in most situations, yeah.
Yup.
As it's looking like it's egg time, and there's Kangor's Endless Army. Almost perfectly timed. If Lazy A can play the egg now, start to layer the mechs on top of it, then within the next couple turns, they're all coming back.
Kangor's Endless Army is such a cool card. I'm so glad it's seeing play.
It is great, isn't it?
Like, I haven't played much Mech Paladin, but when you do play Kangors, you just feel good.
It's one of those cards, though, where it's so powerful and you're sort of building the deck around it that when you don't draw it, it doesn't feel great.
That is also true. So just draw it, is my advice to you.
You're basically telling me to get good.
I'm basically telling you to just get good, just win. Stop moaning.
Sorry.
It probably won't be coming down on curve for Portugal because they do want to be going for magnetizing up this egg with Annoyer Module and Bronze Gatekeeper, which they can do next turn. And at that point, after they've made a 14 health egg, I start to wonder what Canada can do to break that egg.
With Taunt as well.
With Taunt.
And as soon as the egg does get broken, it just comes back again.
It somewhat goes against the flavor of eggs, I would say, that they are supposed to be easy to break.
Not that one. Have you looked at it?
Yeah, I guess it is pretty big. It's got cracks all up it, though.
Yeah, but it's got, like, lightning striking it or something.
Yeah, that's true.
It's got, like, tubes going out of the top.
You're not wrong. I guess I wouldn't try and break that egg.
No. No, you would not.
Just a bit of a miserable turn for Canada, though, on the flip side. We've been focusing on Portugal's game plan here, to be honest, a little bit more heavily, because it's been the more interesting game plan so far. They've had more difficult decisions, I would say, whereas all of Monsanto's decisions just haven't felt good. He has to just go for the Vine Cleaver now to hope that he can mop up this mess.
Oh boy, but it's going to be a problem. He deals with a Loot Hoarder, that's great, but here we go. That egg is about to gain 14 health and Divine Shield.
Yeah, I'm looking at any alternative, or I'm looking, again, just for a final time at any punishes for this play.
Is there a Silence in the deck?
No, there's no Owl.
Is there a Void Ripper in the deck?
No.
Well, okay then.
There's 2 Blood Knights, so putting Divine Shield on the board is not perfect.
One's been played already.
Yeah, and you have so much Taunt in the way that who even cares? You have Silence as well, whatever. There's no punish.
It's still going to be a 3-4
You just go
without Divine Shield.
Bronze Gatekeeper first, trade in. You could even break off the Divine Shield yourself if you are afraid of the Blood Knight. I think it's still correct to go Bronze Gatekeeper first, trade in, then Annoyer Module, because then you save the Divine Shield. But even then, he can just trade in with his 1-1. But I guess that might become a 3-3. Yeah, I think I like this more. You go Bronze Gatekeeper first, then you trade in, then you Annoyer Module.
Yeah.
I like this a lot.
Not in a hurry to deal with Monsanto, as this egg isn't going anywhere. Monsanto, it's going to take a lot to break this open. Blood Knight drawn on curve, though. Not a big deal. It just becomes a 6-6, and Lazy A still has a 3-13 with Taunt, so it's not so bad.
I guess the main saving grace here for Monsanto is this egg, as threatening as it is in terms of a defensive tool, it's not doing much damage at the moment. He's got a while before he's actually dying. Because in Portugal's deck list, there's no Blessing of Kings. The only real high attack buffs they have are War Gear, I guess Ziliax. Not loads. As the the play they went for does find the, I'm doing air quotes here, punish in the Blood Knight, even though Spellbreaker feels like it'd be a pretty decent way to clear it up.
Yeah, it's not the ideal 3-mana punish, isn't it? Again, talking about Owls here and Void Rippers.
Yeah.
They would have been perfect.
Yeah, if there was Silence in the deck, Portugal would not have made this play, I don't think, because it would have been too risky. They know it is not there, though, because HCG is an open decklist format.
Now that level up that Canada have been holding on to for this entire game, it's looking like very soon it's going to get its chance to shine, as Portugal have used their concentration. They can only deal with what's looking like one of these 1-1s this turn. So that level up could be making all of the difference here.
Weird turn now for Lazy A, where the Silence is far from mandatory on this turn. We could see a Valenier coming down to clear up a couple of these 1-1s. Maybe even to go aggressive, although I probably would imagine we'll see a slightly more defensive game plan. Or we could see a whole bunch of Stonehill defenders coming down turn after turn.
I don't think either of the other options are better. So.
Yeah. And Silence is not a bad play on this turn. You clear off a few stats from the board.
Just keep banging Stonehill defenders. Fits the curve nicely with the hero power. Cyanide Chain Gang is nice and defensive. Righteous Protector also looking great here.
Yeah. None of these are mechs, so you're fine. You just don't want to mess up your Kangor's resurrection.
Yep, again, we've had one Bronze Gatekeeper die so far. We've had the Meat Wagon itself. So this egg will be mech number 3. So Lazy 8 isn't going to want us to wait until the 8-8 gets destroyed. He's going to want to play that Kangor's as soon as the egg is gone, which is looking like it could be this turn, given how strong that level up is.
So Canada with no way to sacrifice off their own Blood Knight here, because there's no attack high enough on Portugal's side, means they can't go swing in with Divine Cleaver and then get 7 upgrades with level up. So maybe we just see level up, attack in, level up Sacred Maul. Like basically whatever they're doing, they want to dump their hand for Divine Favor sooner rather than later.
True. Not that Lazy A's hand seems to be getting any larger.
Yeah.
But yeah, now Canada can hero power or hit in the weapon and get their 6 leveled up minions.
But little do Canada know, as Portugal sit there chuckling and rubbing their hands together, the more mechs they kill, they only add to his power.
Yes, this army never ends. Well, it does, I guess. When the next wave of mechs get destroyed, then...
Yeah, you know what, Kangor? Calm down, all right? It's not endless. It's pretty big. It's a long army, I'll give you that. Endless? Get over yourself, mate. It's not that long.
It's got to be time, though. And what's great is that the next Meat Wagon will summon the next egg when it gets destroyed.
It will. Doesn't necessarily have to go for it here, like I'm looking at anything else, but I think going for the less greedy Kangors right now, just for a nice, strong defensive play.
The problem is, if this mech dies, then it could prevent the egg from coming back. And the egg is the premium resurrect here.
Oh, okay, of course, there was a Bronze Gate play. I was going to say he should have equality'd first, because then he could have got the full 3 mech upgrade.
No, he wants that mech alive.
Forgot about the Bronze Gate. Yeah. This is very, very nice. So now there is the potential for 3 8-8s, 3 8-attack minions, sorry, to be on board in the next couple turns, after all these eggs have perished.
Yeah, if they can get one more annoyer module or something to play on the next egg, that should pretty much lock down the game. If it wasn't already locked out, which, to be fair, Canada is still chugging on.
They're doing a remarkable job of staying in this game. I thought this was pretty much over when all those buffs were coming down. It's still not looking good for them, because there is a lot of attack power that's going to be on Lazy A's board in the next few turns. But this is a respectable fight back. As Canada there could have opted to draw 1 card with Glowtron Divine Favor, but I like this a bit more. Just taking it slow, mopping up what they can, cleaning up the damage. But for Portugal, it's just 1 consecration away from pretty much winning this game, I would say. Spike Ridge Steed, you don't really want to taunt up your giant 8-8 because you want to protect that and allow it to go face.
Lazy is 2 off lethal here.
Wow.
With the silence on the Taunt and the Valanir.
Does he just go for that? That seems a little bit risky.
No, he needs to play the Steed, I think.
Yeah. So if he goes for Steed on the Meat Wagon, it then goes up to 3 attack, which is not good.
No,
you know,
no.
you want to be summoning the eggs out of the deck, but it means that he can break through the 5-2, protect his 8-8 and allow it to swing face this turn. He could even go for the silence as well, right? He could silence down the 5-2, Spike Ridge Steed his Meat Wagon, send everything face.
Would he not prefer to suicide the Meat Wagon and then Spike Ridge Steed up the egg?
Oh, yeah.
The only issue is then he'd have to trade the 8-8 into the 5-2 also, so he's not going to go with that in the end.
You just miss out on so much damage. I like this because it just protects the 8-8, which is your big old beating stick. Use it to kill your opponent, and it does look like, unless a miracle can come down for Canada right now, they are just going to be out of this game.
They can give all of their minions Taunt. Let's not forget. Not that that matters too much. I mean, it allows them to stall for a bit if they want to. But I'm still not seeing how Monsanto actually wins at the end of this one.
Me neither, to be honest, Falcone. I think Lazy A, he's just got this one. He turned the corner, got stabilized on the board, and in a pretty cool fashion, I have to say. I am glad that we got to see Kangor's Endless Army doing its work this game, because it just absolutely won Portugal this game.
It did. It with the Bronze Gatekeeper, the Annoy module, and the Egg, which was summoned by the Meat Wagon in the first place. That combination of cards has done some amazing work, and I am still convinced, Derek, and I've been saying this now for a couple weeks, I'm convinced that our Paladin is not the best Paladin deck, and I want to see more of this as we move forwards in the Hearthstone Global Games.
So I guess while we've been laughing and saying this game's over and mocking the power of Sacred Maul, finally, it is the time to shine.
The Wall of Taunts.
For the Maul.
That's not what you want, Portugal.
I mean, it does keep them alive, I guess. They're still not winning this game of Hearthstone.
So how do Portugal tackle this, though? I guess they
they kill off all the 1/1s.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they're afraid of level up. They don't play Sunkeeper Tarim.
Definitely not.
I would wager. They demand more taunts to be drawn next turn, or they just win anyway. Leroy does not even come close. Level Up doesn't come close. Fungalmancer doesn't come close. It's going to have to be, again, some pretty miraculous draws for Monsanto. That is not that miraculous draw for Canada. No more taunts available. No ability to clear up this board, I believe. They throw down Leroy, but I think they know that that just ain't going to do it.
There's another Egg hitting the board, and hey, suddenly that Sunkeeper Tarim is representing enough damage for Lazy A to win this game.
I don't even think he needs that. Like,
No,
just
he
the
doesn't.
1/1 whelps could close out this game.
How annoying that Stegodon is from the Spike-Witch Steed as well.
There we go. Monsanto throws it down. I think we knew that Canada weren't really in with a great shot of getting through to the top 16, whether they won or not due to their terrible tiebreakers. But for Lazy A there, as he gives us a miraculous looking dab to hopefully get his way through to the top 16.
Now, a lot of the other teams in the Hearthstone Global Games will have been paying close attention to the series because, as we said, we think Canada had such bad tiebreakers, maybe they wouldn't have qualified even if they did win, which means now that they didn't win, the other teams that have bad tiebreakers are going to be thinking, uh-oh, that might not be good for us. So it will be interesting to see overnight like what the teams are saying on Twitter about what this match has meant for them.
Yeah, I believe as a rough estimate, don't take this, or don't quote me on this, but I think if USA win tomorrow, that's basically where Portugal's chances of qualifying through hinges upon, because USA also don't have fantastic tiebreakers because they went on a bit of a losing streak at the start of Hearthstone and then picked it up towards the end. But we will make sure we have all of that available for you tomorrow.
Should we take a look at the series that we just watched one more time? You're going to see a strange bit of green. Very strange. Oh, no, we're going straight to the results. We are skipping the matchup. There you go. Today's results. Ukraine 3-1 against China. Spain beat Belgium. Bulgaria 3-0'd current Hearthstone Global Games champions, knocking them out of the tournament. Goodbye, Czech Republic. Then Brazil beat Switzerland. And finally, Portugal have taken down Canada.
Yeah, a lot of great stories today. Brazil being, I believe, the only undefeated team throughout the Swiss portion of the Global Games. I do have to say, I'm sad I didn't pick them. I was very heavily considering it versus Germany, but with both of my teams through to the top 16, how sad could I be, Fal?
You're not allowed to be that sad at all. I'm just still hoping that my team did make it through to the top 16. I'm waiting to see how those tiebreakers end up. But I believe that we are now, given we've seen the results, I believe we're now finished for the day. We have one more day left of the Hearthstone Global Games this week. It's going to be tomorrow. Let's take a look at the schedule. South Korea versus the United States. That's a match I've been looking forward to all week.
Yeah, I think everyone has. After USA went 0-2 at the start of the Global Games in the first 2 weeks, I believe I wasn't casting back there, but I believe they just had a pretty miserable start to the at the start of the Global Games as an NA lull was heard around the world.
Are you Muzzy's good luck charm?
Am I Muzzy's good luck charm? Yeah, maybe we'll go with that.
Should we take a look at how the standings have ended up after day 2 of week 6 of HGG? One team left to play, as we just saw, but there you go. King of the Hill, 6-0. It is Brazil, the best performing team in the Hearthstone Global Games 2018.
Yeah, some a sad day today in terms of players that were knocked out. I believe that's Canada, Belgium, and the Czech Republic now out of the Hearthstone Global Games. Strong teams and previous champions in the Czech Republic eliminated, but we will see tomorrow whether USA or South Korea can be joining our top 16 competitors.
Yes, it's a tough competition indeed. Now, although we are done with the Hearthstone Global Games today, as I said, Derek and myself will be back tomorrow at 3 a.m. CEST for that game. However, do stick around, as straight after we finish here, so within the next few minutes, TJ and Frodan will be bringing you Talkstone. That's always great fun to watch and interact with in the chat, so make sure you stick around for that. But from Lorinda, from a very voiceless Gaskin, from production, from Derek, and from myself, we hope you have a wonderful night, and we'll see you tomorrow.